Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Simsa's online panel discussion series. It's a very good initiative by Simsa Management and the Simsa Alumni Association. In situations like these, which we have never seen before, it's good to hear, discuss, and debate from the experienced people, from the experienced alumni, and to learn how to cope with the changing situation. We have a series of online panel discussions being planned, with the first being today on the HR and followed by the other aspects of the corporate world. So we'll be soon having panel discussions on marketing, finance, operations, systems. Thank you so much, all the students and the alumni and the SIMSA management team to help us and to organize this. There's a lot of learning, and I'm sure all of us will come out far more informed. The objective of these discussion is to understand better what's happening in the corporate world today, what are the immediate changes that have taken place, and how things are going to unfold. To a certain extent, it can be seen or foreseen, and how are we going to cope with these? The focus of today's discussion is from an HR perspective. So that's the reason we have selected two esteemed alumni with 20 25 years of experience. And they come from the sectors like the Morgan Stanley Index Services, and Kashish Kapoor is from the NEC Technologies, which is the IT sector. So today we will have both of them sharing what's happening at their companies, what changes have they made, how are they running the HR systems and rechanging systems at their organization. So the first 20 minutes we will listen to them, we will hear from them what are the changes being made, and then we will open the discussion to all the participants. They can pose their questions, and we can have a good round of debate around that. Let me give you a quick background about our panelist. On my left, yes, on my left, I have Sudha Jaishankar. She's a batch of 1989. Hi, nice to see you. And a former HR executive director with MSCI. She's a seasoned HR generalist, and she has been working on various aspects of HR with a focus on strategic HR. And some of the experiences that she carries, and it's all the more relevant today, is the changing dynamics, is how to bring out productivity in a matrix organization, learning and development, mentoring, performance analysis, creative problem solving, which is a need of the hour, conflict management, compensation, strategic leadership, talent and team management, and succession planning are some of her core competencies. Welcome to the panel discussion today, Sudha. Nice to have you around. And on my right, I have Kashish Kapoor. She's my batchmate. Hi, Kashish. From batch of 1994, and currently she is the HR head, ADP with NEC Technologies. She's an HR professional with 25 years of experience. She's also an HR generalist with skills in creating robust people practices around talent development, career progression, rewards, and recognition. She has a keen sense of metric orientation to build engagement practices for retention and organization impact for anchoring change, which again is the need of the hour. And she's a specialist in diversity, employee management, retention, CSR, compliance, ethics, training development, and other areas of generalist HR. So today's discussion, we are going to focus on two aspects. The first aspect is I would like both of you to share that since the COVID and the lockdown and the world news has been coming, what are the top 3-4 changes that you have seen in your organization since, say, February to April, May? What are the changes that you have seen, and what are the changes, and how is the organization coping with the changes? And the second part of the discussion after we finish the first part will be going forward. What are the changes like this? So the first part, Sudha, I would want you to start with that. Since the slowdown, since the lockdown, what are the 3-4 major changes for from an HR perspective that you have witnessed, you have seen, and how have you structured things around? Yes.
Right. Right. Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. I'm glad you made time in the evening. I know it's a working day, but sitting at home, it almost feels like it's not a working day. But thank you for joining. One of the key things, is it clear?
Yeah, it's clear.
Great. One of the key things, learnings which HR has found in after the COVID has been that working from home used to be a policy or a benefit which some functions used to get. What we have found out is now that HR also is can work from home. We can do it efficiently, effectively, and we can continue to add more value than what people thought we could. So that's a big change in times there. And it is no longer that working from home is just a privilege for a few. It's become for everyone. So that has changed everybody's way of working, thinking, and how they organize themselves. Uh, we in MSCI and in other companies, what we do is we usually have a very robust BCP, a plan for crisis management, how we do it. We have mock sessions, we have drills happening, and we were kind of prepared for this, but we always thought at any given point, maybe 30, 35, 40% of the population would have to work from home, and therefore the systems would have to be robust enough to bear that. This, what COVID-19 has done for us is that all 100% of us are working from home. The building which we used to work in is completely locked down, and that's been used as a store, a place for keeping refugees. So we have working from home. None of the work has stopped. It's become more efficient. It took us about a week to get into the hang of it and get into the meetings, be more prepared, make sure our background is clear, the voice is clear, the video, all the technological learnings which we've had, people who were not expected to know about it, people who thought they just had to come into office, work, and go back. That learning has happened, so people have become a lot more technology savvy in doing their work and how they're delivering it. We have also found out that we're expecting a lot more from our leaders. Simultaneously, we're giving a lot more authority to each of the employees themselves, especially the managers. So we've got into something called a decentralized authority. So everybody as a manager or as an individual has authority to do the job which they're asked to do. And the coordination has become centralized. The coordination becomes centralized for Mumbai, for US, for the locations as well. So it's decentralized, distributed authority, and coordinated and centralized coordination is how we're finding out we're working. The key to this, of course, is that from the day one when you joined, you had a recruitment and they said, what is your job? So we knew what the job description was. What COVID had done very quickly in a week or two was everybody had to have extraordinary clarity of the role, and the expectations from that role became a lot more clear. We didn't have the luxury of walking into somebody's room and saying, what did you mean by this? We had to have clarity in terms of writing. Communication skills have grown a bit with some kind of mistakes, obviously. But I think as a skill, communication in written, speaking, and organizational skills of personal time has improved dramatically within the organization. Plus a lot of other things, but I'm just going to give Kashish a chance to see what they do at NEC.
Sure. Yeah, Kashish, over to you. So what are the top 3 changes that you have seen since COVID impact in your organization? And what has been the HR changes or the look at these changes? How is HR looking at these changes?
So thanks so much, Anuradha. Thanks, Sudha. This has been so we as an organization have been on a journey of transformation. So this has somehow, we look at this situation as an opportunity which has, kind of, given more momentum to that whole piece of transformation for us. We all organizations have a BCP, and so did we. But the COVID-19 situation threw up a huge challenge, and the immense capability and the strength of the DNA of the organization to come together to leverage and harness that internal capability to, get into a situation when the first day we started working, around the BCP, we were on a 70% workforce working from home. Uh, so just to set a context, we are a Japanese organization. Japan has a very, very different culture. We are very global in our approach, and that was the whole spiel of transformation, both in a business as well as a cultural context that we were going through. So in that situation, we had a 75% workforce going on a straight work from home, which happened on a weekend because of a lockdown situation. Uh, Thankfully, touch wood, I think that's where each of us went out and celebrated that, uh, uh, we were able to do that seamlessly. Whether it was, and we operate in SEZ zones where it is very difficult to move your machinery out of office environments, etc. But the government had relaxed their rules. We were able to provide desktops and laptops to employees who did not have the machines, to all the new joinees who were coming on board during this entire period. And we swiftly moved through the first few stages of the transition. And by week 2, we had virtual onboardings. We were doing virtual celebrations in terms of rewards and recognitions. We've started virtual trainings have moved into a virtual space. We use this period to kind of optimize ourselves on things that can be done more virtually. We got rid of our own internal biases and roadblocks and perceptions that if you have to figure out a strategic problem, or do an accounting or a budget analysis, you have to get into a room and all have to be face to face. To do that, quickly there were virtual rooms where all of this was happening. It was personally speaking the biggest advantage that I saw, that was very easy to pull people into meetings, because all you needed to do was go to Skype and add, and you had a meeting going. You didn't have to go block meeting rooms. You didn't have to check people's availability, because you could see who's available on Skype. So the adaptability towards technology was much faster. People's appetite for all of this was much quicker. There was more resistance to change. In fact, the human capability to adapt to change was just so evident all the time that typically a policy would take about 8 to 9 months to put into effect. If all of us were wanting to implement a policy, anybody who's worked in HR or is planning to work in HR in future will know that the minute you start planning to implement or create a policy, it's about 9 months, and then you want to pilot it in a certain group. None of that happened. There was a work from home that just happened. And before this, we've never had there were guidelines around work from home. We are a flexible employer, but we didn't have a work from home policy per se. So, tools came in quickly. Things moved onto a virtual space very, very seamlessly. We did a quick employee check. In fact, the beauty of it was that I think 3-4 weeks into the lockdown, we started receiving employee appreciations for the support and the enablement that they got on LinkedIn. So which for any person at any level in HR is a moment of delight. That's nothing more that you look for than an employee actually saying that, thank you so much. We love the support and the empowerment that you've given us. So that's the biggest takeaway. I'm not going to talk about transactions, because that is business as usual, because it really never impacted our lives from how we moved from an office environment to a virtual space. But yes, we were able to create hotspots. So everybody was thinking on their feet. There was less resistance to, there was more collaboration. People were thinking on their feet. You typically do design thinking and solutioning approach workshops. Here, it was all live, happening as we progress from one week to the next week to the next week. So I think I've gained a lot of positivity from this
entire experience.
Absolutely.
That's amazing. So from what I hear from both of you, I think the immediate changes or the skills that you see that were important. So that you mentioned about excellent communication skills is required, coordination skills is required. And what Kashish is mentioning is the genesis of transformation, mindset, change, capability. People have been pushed to that. We don't have an option. We have to quickly change and adapt to the situation to keep business as usual running, right? So that's what both these organizations and the HR has supported, and it's been going good in that sense. Now the second question I have is considering that we are the management institute, and the first thing that comes to our mind is about the jobs and the safety of the jobs of especially the junior to mid management. The kind of skill sets, the core competency, what you bring to the table. And we've been reading a lot of news, not so very good news. The CMI projecting that the GDP is likely to have one or two, drops, percentages drops. The CII also saying that if this is how it will continue till October, then you will have a lot of job cut across different industries. Of course, it varies depending on industries. Some of the infrastructure, power, large projects are expected to see. Maybe there could be it could be better in certain other sectors like education, online education, delivery, retail. But specifically coming to your organizations, and maybe if you have other experiences you could share, what do you see is going to happen to the employees at the junior to mid management and also the fresh recruits? Because I'm sure in our discussions today, many of the students would be keen to know how is going to be the job market for them in the coming year. So, Sudha, you want to take it first?
Okay. Yeah, so what we have made, what offers, we don't have a summer training program in MCI. Some companies do, ours doesn't.
Okay.
In the companies which we have made final placement offers to college recruits. We thought it will be a graduate training program which we will start. Those we will honor.
Graduate training program.
Yeah. So those we will honor, and that will go forth. And we've already come to a very detailed training program and how the onboarding is going to be for juniors, which is slightly different from onboarding for seasoned experienced staff, obviously. So whatever offers have been made, we're honoring. What we have done is a pause in training. We have not stopped the recruitment. We actually paused it, which means we're still on the lookout for top talent, high potential, high growth employees who do make a difference in the organization. That's always a welcome addition to any organization or any team. Simultaneously, what is happening is that with the lockdown and people working from home, we're able to analyze and look at the work allocation and the kind of work, kind of roles people do, whether we need to merge some roles, merge some skills, and therefore maybe look out for a different kind of skill set from outside. So it's given us an opportunity to look at that. We will, maybe May or June, we will have virtual onboarding, after which they will definitely be able to join the office when they're able to join. We had plans of opening another office in another city. That's on pause, not stopped or hold, it's on a pause. And it'll start as soon as the city is up and running. Those are the things. We've had senior management join us as planned. Everybody is very quickly, like Kashish was saying, everybody has gotten to the very nimbly. They've been we've not seen this kind of potential of skills. We never asked them for these skills before. So we find that most of the team members across the company have these skills, are working, and we never realized it. We just expected them to turn up in a room on time. We find that we didn't give them enough credit for what they could do. They've been very nimble in their support on onboarding, catching up, doing tests online, all the usual things which we expect a new recruit to do. And that's happening as well.
Okay, so recruitments will continue. You will honor the kind of placements that you've given, but your Pune thing will not be happening, only Mumbai. So there'll be a little less recruitment compared to previous year.
No, Pune will happen, but it will be slow. It will happen because we're constrained by the office, because city itself not opening up. But we will open it up. We will.
And your entire training will be it will be an online training for the new recruits, right?
So every week we have new joinees. Every week we have new joinees, and that's been an onboarding, which is virtual onboarding anyway. So here also the onboarding will be virtual. It just means HR has to be a lot more creative and a lot more detailed and clear on what they want them to know. And it doesn't come through just partly through WebEx or partly through actual material which we have to prepare in a lot more detail.
Correct. So that's a fairly positive. It's not too negative in the sense you would continue to look. And what about mid-management and senior management recruitments? Will it be only business as usual continuity, or will you be taking on projects or will the larger projects be on hold so that you don't see much of recruitment for the next 8 to 10 months?
Like I said, I think companies will always be on the lookout for top talent, high impact talent in the market. So those we will constantly be looking at. Maybe the pace will not be weekly and not be the urgency, but definitely a lot more time we'll be looking at that. Simultaneously looking inward into the company and identifying these top potential, top talent people, making sure we give them a good retention plan and hold them, because that will mean that we need to recognize their efforts in the kind of roles which they play. Because now after COVID is over, I don't think it's the money which is going to be a problem. I think it's the kind of job which is going to be a key differentiator between someone wanting to stay in your company and going across to another company. Is what I feel.
Okay, sure. Got the point. Kashish, over to you. The same question I would like to ask you in terms of the new recruits. What is your plan of the organization for this year? Are you planning to recruit? Is it on freeze, or will you be going to campus and giving offers?
So we actually, okay. Having said that, we have not revoked any of the offers that we've rolled out. We are honoring all the offers. We don't hire directly from campus. We have a very structured campus program, so we will continue to do that. But I see there will be a slowdown in it, but at the same time, the market is going to open up at some point of time. Once the market opens up, then we will also see, and that's personally my opinion, that we will also see a reshaping of the global, the entire global economy and the market industry and the sectors in the market there. And the reason I say that today we are already talking about Japan, Korea, and all these countries looking at moving their manufacturing units out of China. So, and they're looking at India as a destination. So you're seeing the kind of focus which will come onto India, which will translate into jobs, which will translate into specific skills, which will translate into the kind of intakes that happen. So it'll all play out in some time in a very positive manner, I feel. It is important for people on the call today. I think it's very important for from an internship or from a hiring perspective or from a prospecting as a future employee in an organization. It's very important to use this time to specifically understand what you want to do first, and then use this time to upskill yourself in that area and create that expertise for yourself. Because going forth, there's going to be, anyways, the market was, even before the COVID, there was this, we were talking about upskilling, we were talking about niche skills and, people getting into cross-functional exposures, because, that's how the whole talent landscape is shaping up. It's a good opportunity at this time to capitalize on that, to upskill yourself and gain the kind of, and there are enough, and Harvard has recently announced close to about 70 programs which are free, online programs which are available. So these opportunities have opened up multifold in the learning space. Right time to pick on that, develop your expertise and get it, because that's where the companies are going to start picking up, because markets will open up. They will want people who come in quickly and who can be productive day one. That will be one of the requirements. So probably from a 90-day period, the 90-day period may shrink. That would be what the expectation would be, shrink that 90-day period to, let's say, 40, 45 days and have the person come on board and start delivering. That's my opinion, and that's how I'm a forever optimist. So, but that's how I view this.
If I can add something.
That's well. Yeah, sure. So this point of China, Korea shifting manufacturing base to India was something that even I was going through some of the corporate interviews. We need to watch out for how things roll out, and that will give a little positive spin to all the fresh, talent that's coming out. So that even in the short term, if there may be a job squeeze, but in the medium term, it would be better. Yeah, Sudha, what was your point?
No, I was saying, in as much as it is important for the freshers to be upskilling and changing, I think it's extraordinarily important for the middle management and senior recruits as well to now take this opportunity to add to their skills, because what got them here will not. And anyway, India's what, 60% of the population is less than 30, 35. So we're going to see more and more, and we do see a lot more millennials coming into the work field. And it means that when they, after the COVID and the pause, and if they've got them skills upskilled, there will be a definite push for only the really top talent to remain. And I can't stress that enough, because suddenly we will have a lot of people in the market with very few avenues to go out and use the same skills they have. And I think the freshers would have a slightly better advantage in the job market in the coming future, is what I feel. Because they're much more open to upskilling, and they've got the skills in.
See, politically also, if you look at it, the way, the political scenario globally is playing up, India is getting a lot of positive attention today. And you have a G20 summit coming up next year in India. So you have many things playing for you in different platforms, and suddenly the limelight seems to be here. And you have Japan, which has been talking about I think 2 years back, there was an article where it spoke about wanting 2 million engineers from India. 2 lakh engineers from India. And, so it's a very positive wind, which is probably slowed down, but it's going to come back with all of this. The positive is somewhere is building up, and it's going to play out in various platforms.
Communication, learning languages, being a lot more culturally aware of other cultures, being able to adapt very quickly, being nimble, will be some of the skills which the freshers and people on the call might need to definitely improve upon if they want to have an edge.
Yes. Now that we have started the discussion and the forum is open, we have some questions. So shall I move to those, and then we can come back to our views. The first question is by Yash Gajwani. When you're posting the questions, if you could also write your batch here, it will give us a little more perspective. He is asking the question, is work from home the new norm or the new normal going forward? Sudha, is work from home the new normal?
The way I'm getting feedback, it was thrilled. In the first 2 weeks, people were thrilled to be working from home. All the pent-up thing, I want to go home. I'm from Mumbai, so we don't want to spend 2 hours on the road, on commute, was the thrill they felt. After that, now they find that the encroachment of personal time and professional time has become very blurred at home. It is the way I'm getting feedback. Most of them want to come back to work. They want to have a different set of relationships, different set of persona in the work field, which is what they bring. And sitting at home is not giving them that. It's causing a lot more stress sitting at home trying to manage both the performance. So it's going to be a lot more, Yash, it won't be the norm coming forward, but it'll definitely be a lot more dynamic in organizations where they would not say, just spend 2 days in a week, perhaps. Maybe it'll be a lot more open to these kind of policy changes from HR, and saying you maybe get a lot more work done that way. It'll also bring in, of course, a lot more clarity to the work. It'll bring whether your job can, now what we have found out is all jobs can work from home. There's no specific thing saying, only certain jobs you can work from home, others you have to be in the office on the premise. So that myth has been broken quite effectively. So it could be way in the future, but I don't think so. I think as social beings, we do want to meet people face to face, not just on 1 hour social call on Friday evening with imaginary drinks.
Yeah. A similar question, a slight twist. Maybe Kashish, you could take this. This is by Siddharth Patel. On similar lines is a question, going forward, how are the organizations going to institutionalize digital ways of working and rethinking work models and motivating their employees? Question by Siddharth Patel. Going forward, how are organizations going to institutionalize digital ways of working, rethinking work models, motivating employees?
Thanks, Siddharth. So digitalization was already in everybody's agenda. It is not going to be something which has got added now or which is going to get added now. However, the speed, this entire phase has added more speed to it. So digital, I think companies will now, so this has been a dry run of a BCP for a work from home and a BCP for most organizations. Tested, tried, found the gaps. So that's where the whole emphasis will be in terms of, bringing in more technology, bringing in the right kind of tools, bringing in systems and processes which enable that, decentralizing things in some areas, centralizing them somewhere, creating the decision matrix to enable that kind of an environment. These are some things which will happen, and they will happen very quickly. Reason I say that is because everybody is expecting that this maybe not with this intensity, but this pandemic is here to stay for the next year, at least a year, 13, 15 months. So that is a span that you're looking at. And they are going to, the next available window that you get, this is going to be one of the key focus of most organizations to quickly upbuild themselves. I know of organizations today which are looking at their budgets and trying to realign their costs to bring in, more digitalization, more tools, more enablement from a remote working environment. Having said that, it's also a truth that there are organizations like IBMs and the GEs and the Infosys, which have had a history of having 60% workforce, a 60% remote working environment. However, the technicalities of this current situation are different. This is the new normal, but though it is the new normal, it's not going to be a new normal where you can't step out of your house. So it is going to be a new normal where you work from home remotely, you have more flexibility around your work, and there is more understanding, and people are not worried that I'm not in office today, so I don't know what's going to happen to, so I'll be left out. So those are not biases that are going to play in my mind. I don't know how much of us actually accept the fact that but if a female employee, and that's like very, very evident, we've not done much in the gender space. If a female employee were to get up at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and say, I want to work from home, second half, she was labeled as unproductive. She was labeled as somebody who's not ambitious. So all of those biases and perceptions will go away, and they'll be replaced purely by performance, technology, digitalization, agility in work environments and work models, and which will also give momentum to the entire gender piece at some stage. Siddharth, I hope I answered that.
Yeah, the one other thing I'd like to add to that is, which we found in our company specifically, is that we found that we had laptops. Some people had laptops. Some people had. It's a granular thing. We would definitely, most companies should start looking towards making it digitalized and available on the mobile and on your handset system, rather than just, not everybody can afford a laptop or a desktop at home or have that luxury of space there. So I think the new generation, the millennials, all of you on the call, have the access. You do most of the things work from your mobile. And I think a lot more of that industry, that kind of talent is going to be the future very quickly, especially in India, when it's going to be a lot more capable. It brings into its own challenges of security and, how we're going to make sure data gets secure and all that happens. But I think that's where your exciting future is going to be. And that's where the companies are going to go and listen to more.
So I'll just add a personal experience here.
Yeah.
Can I, Anu? With
Sure.
your due permission. I first worked from home for about 18 months at a stretch in 2011 when my son was born. So I remember a scenario where there were lesser tools, there was lesser digitalization, and to paint a frame for you, I used to be with a laptop. I used to have my kid on one side, and on the other side, I used to have a diaper bag, and it was a joke that I would be in meetings and I would be changing diapers. But from there, when I'm getting into this situation where I'm working from home today, I see that there's the whole space of my laptop and my association with it has improved so much, in terms of from a digital perspective, that the ease to do business is much, much, much more today than it was in 2011 for me. And I'm enjoying this much more than I did that time.
Yeah. Maybe it's also the years of experience and the comfort with the various departments, the people, and the organization goals, objectives. So it brings in, as Sudha said, the clarity of your role and your expectation is far more in your mind now.
Yep.
Shall we take the next question?
Sure.
The next question is by Ranu Parwal, and this is specifically to Kashish. How are companies like NEC looking at the growth plan for India when they are impacted in their parent company? Is your company looking at second question is your company looking at moving some of the operation from China to India? Has this been discussed? Requesting Kashish ma'am to address these answers. First question is, how are companies like NEC looking at the growth plan when their parent company has also been affected? And is there any concrete discussion on shifting some operation from China to India?
Okay, so thanks, Ranu. India is a huge focus area for NEC globally. So our whole focus on India today is it is a company affiliate of it is a very key company subsidiary in India for NEC. It is we have a whole our entire goal and vision for the next couple of years is around leveraging India, both in terms of talent and capability, and as well as opportunity. That means we want to. So it is for us, it is go to India and from India go global. So that is the theme with which we're driving our business. We're looking at a very, very very high exponential growth of, reaching a $1 billion in the next few years. So there is going to be a tremendous focus, and it is something which is a very, very key part of NEC's growth plan globally. Coming to your second question, that are we moving operations from China to India? It's too early to comment on that. The entire dialogue, the entire discussion has just about opened up. But I think that will be something which everybody will keep an eye on, and you will hear more of this in the coming days.
Ranu Parwal also has a question to Sudha. She says that since she is from the finance background and into HR, and from an exchange point of view, how is the risk being looked at post-COVID? Okay, so this was anyway our second part of our discussion. So we said that now these are the changes and these are the immediate reactions that companies have made. So how is the risk being looked at post? So probably a year from now, how do you think things are going to be? Any idea, any discussions that have happened?
So I'm going to interpret this question as not as the company and the corporate risk, but I'm going to look at it as just what the company, the organizational risks would be. I think because this came out of the blue, a lot of people are taken completely by surprise. I think what started off as a fun 1 week, 2 week of paid holiday kind of working thing quickly evolved into a working hard, and it's become a lot more work oriented. And after this is over, the companies have to put in a constant processing. They have to make sure security is top priority. They have to make sure that your IT is top notch. Things don't break down, because people are going to get worried that in future something like this could happen again suddenly, and we're not prepared for it. This time we have the luxury or the runway of all the mistakes we must be making mistakes. I'm sure everybody must be. All that is kind of excused because it's the first time we're doing it. You just feel that the first time we've done it really well and way beyond expectations. But I think anytime it happens, even if it lasts, like Kashi said, another 15 months, then we really have to make sure before that the organizations are able to take care of the employees, make sure work doesn't just become business as usual, but is able to ramp up to whatever plans they had envisaged for the year and the coming years. So we don't lose track of the strategy which they had. Business as usual is okay for a couple of months, but to get to what strategy and the growth which the companies had, you would need to put a lot more process in place. You'd have to go back to the building blocks and have the right people in the right place, envision what's going to happen, make sure there's security, because digitalization is going to make sure it comes with its equal, loopholes in that. All that has to be a lot of closed room conversations. And in companies, what we would do with new employees, new freshers who come is start on projects which are already working on these mini projects, and then roll it up into something larger when it does hit a decision point. I think that's the kind of risk we look at. The other thing which COVID has brought into limelight and which might require look into is, I think India is one of the very few countries which pays per month salary. Every month you get a payroll. We find that in other parts of the world is either a weekly salary slip to get or a fortnightly. Maybe it might be advisable to look at something like that, because it helps people to manage their finances way more efficiently, and rather than savings as well. So I think that might be one of the things we could look at is in the future to augment the risk from the employee perspective. I hope I'm answering
Well said.
from which you.
Yes, we get an idea. If it continue for a longer time, what are the changes need to be brought in? Kashish, would you like to add in? What are the risks being looked at post-COVID? So as you said, you were expecting maybe a year or a little longer. Post that, how do you think the change dynamics is going to be?
So I think I would agree with Sudha. It's going to be, we're all keeping a watch on, yes, it's the years, the financial year has begun slow. So we're all going to keep a watch in terms of, how, not how, the market opens up, will definitely open up. But how does it play out? What is the time period? I think it's too early to say, because India has taken a very, very strong view and in terms of precaution around the situation. So it's going to impact globally for us. Yes, there's going to be a slowdown there, but let's see how it translates into, we'll have more things and more data points, maybe by the end of June, when Q1 is over, and you have more visibility as to how things get placed in terms of projects and accounts and things like that. It's too early to comment anything. It's more of speculation right now for most of us.
Correct, that's true. Some questions on employee well-being and engagement, considering this is the HR panel. The question is to both of you. How important is wellness as an area for organizations now, considering work from home and not able to meet people and energies? How has work from home affected the well-being of employees, and how are HR managements taking care of the motivation, retention, and bringing out the best productivity from their employees?
I'm going to ask Kashish to answer. I think he made some good points yesterday.
You want Kashish to
start?
Okay.
Yes, yeah. I think he raised some good points which NEC was doing, so that you could share it with the forum.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah, you were mentioning something about the Saturday and the Friday get-togethers when you are having an informal chat. That is something that you could share. Yeah, please, Kashish.
Yeah, so we actually, employee wellness at this point of time becomes very important. One, for the first time, it is, it's not a work from home, which is for 2 days or 3 days or a week. It's gone on. So today, we officially complete 1 month, 4 weeks of a lockdown. So that's a long period of time. So it becomes very critical. The important thing that we started off was with, guidelines to managers, how they need to stay connected, guidelines to employees around work from home. We started doing things like online Zumba sessions, and it was fun to see because we had pictures of employees who were doing Zumba sessions along with their families. So there was a lot of bonding that came in there. Then there were yoga sessions, and then we did an online MasterChef session. And then we kept sending them, sending them communication as to how to take care of their health, what they need to spend time with their family. That was, from the CEO's office, it would, there was a constant reiteration. He went into doing virtual coffee sessions with teams, into telling them, it's important to employ safety first. It's important to bond with your family, use this time, to bond with the family, have quality time at home. So a lot of positive messaging around that. We've also now in future, we're looking at doing, talent shows and, probably at some stage, maybe some counseling sessions. I know of organizations today who've actually gotten counselors. So if there is a high level of stress, then the employee can reach out to somebody to speak to somebody. the wellness piece, we have not seen this space so far because, and this is going to be very critical for HR. It's just been 4 weeks. We don't know how it gets, and there is a possibility of an extension of this getting prolonged. That is a time when the criticality will seep in because first, it was a novelty to work from home. If you've seen and I'm not talking about anything here, if you've been space, if you've seen your Facebook and your Instagram and your other social media platforms, the first week, I think there was this whole frenzy about doing something new, picking up an art, and there were people posting paintings and then new people cooking skills, a new dish that they made. So a lot of this was coming in. That has dipped. We don't see so many paintings, we don't see so many cooking skills out there on the Instagrams and
initially,
yeah. So the initial frenzy has gone down. So that means now now is when we need to start engaging with them. So this is when it's going to become very critical for us. It will be very important, and we realize it, and that's what we are doing for managers to be connected with their employees. For example, I'll give you an example of my team. We said we'll watch a movie, during the week some point of time, and Friday evening we will all get onto a Zoom call and we will discuss the movie. And so somebody would copy the dialogues, we would play a song, and we would dance, and everybody had their own drinks in their hand. So we moved where Friday evenings was for a pub or for a dinner out with the team or something. Everything moved home. So that's how, and they felt good about it. They didn't miss the Friday evening fun. So we kept it alive in those, and we asked, various teams to start doing those kind of things. There are teams that get into calls and they say, we're having a team call. There's going to be no talk around work. We're just going to be as insane as we used to be in office during our coffee breaks and having the most nonsensical conversations, which is fine, which is good. So that is the human part which we need to continuously keep bringing in here. And somewhere I think the bonding with the families will come in also at some stage, because you're in a common space. You cannot segregate for too long. So people were shy initially of, kid coming in while a call is going on, and we said, hey, it's okay, never mind. People were shy of putting on their videos when you were getting into Zoom calls. And we said, it's okay. If you're wearing anything which is, which is fine, which doesn't cross the line of decency, it's okay to be. You don't have to be like in a coat or a shirt or a tie. So it just became very, very normal. So now it's, you pick up your laptop and you quickly get onto a call and you put it aside and you get back to cooking, and then you pick it up again and then you do something else. So but yes, the flip side is that the demarcation of when work ends has not yet been defined, and that is the next stage where we need to get into to define those timings for us, and that's more of discipline for ourselves. In fact, a lot you can learn from your kids who are doing online sessions today. See the kind of discipline you would have never seen in your children. For some strange reason, you're seeing that kind of discipline coming into this generation, which is not used to discipline. Nothing against it. Very creative element to not have, to continuously be disruptive. That leads to a lot of innovation. But there is more streamlining of energy, which is happening even into the younger lot today.
Correct. So it's nice to see that the NEC is doing so much for its employee and keeping that energy up, which is so much required at this point in time. So that, do you have anything to share about your organization, what we've been doing to keep the employee mood?
I'm going to interpret Ruchi's question a little differently. So I'm glad that the engagement with the employees is happening, and that's fantastic. It's more key than it was in the office, actually. I'm going to interpret it as a wellness, because I think working from home without actually knowing and meeting your people and having that kind of informal communication channels where you get news from, which is effective for an organization and the people to grow within their career, that is by and large kind of come to a complete halt. It's not the same as writing on WhatsApp or having a WhatsApp call. That has come down to a very negligible amount. And if I invite people for a Thursday evening call, if I could previously in my office, I could say, no, I have to go home, I can't make the dinner. That excuse goes away. So everybody by force is supposed to be there. And it becomes like an informal kind of formal dinner. So we're more important. I'm more worried about the wellness of the person. So whenever this does end, and when they do come back to office in partly or in full force, I want them to come back feeling that they've got a job, that they can still contribute to maximum. They haven't lost out, and whatever stress they feel in trying to balance the work-life balance, and this time, of course, the pendulum has swung to the other end where they have a lot more personal time and they're trying to fit in the work during that hours. That gets stressed. So we actually kind of already started off before where we had every week either a clinical psychologist talk to the people available for the whole day. We had a nutritionist available once a week. We had a physiotherapist available once a week. So that continues so people can still speak to them. And we have all these other avenues of anonymously speaking to a psychologist and venting out and getting all that clear. Because for us in a high stress job, it is extraordinarily important, especially for mid-level and senior level, with all the lack of clarity what's going to happen in the short term, and especially in the medium and long term, people's careers, especially for mid-level and seniors, is not looking that positive, or they're not able to see the green yet. And I think speaking to a third person who understands it, who understands how it could be, it helps. HR is always available. HR people are way more welcome, like she said in the beginning. We do get a lot more kudos now for just being available. But I think it helps if you speak to somebody else as the third party, and that we find helps them to their mental well-being is taken care of as well.
Very well said. There's a lot of anxiety, and we don't know what's going to happen in the near future. Our job cuts, our salary, our bonuses. There's many swords hanging out there. So it's great to know that organizations like MSCI and NSE are doing so many things in a creative way to keep the employee morale and the motivation and productivity levels up in the short term. That's good. This question was by Rijal Kadakia, batch 2015 to 17. Good question. Now we have another question by Mallikarjun, 2008 batch. What impact the work from home COVID is expected to bring in the hiring process, specifically expectation from mid to senior layers of management, especially in finance and pharma fields? Today's discussion, we have had people from the index and the ITS. So Mallikarjun, maybe pharma, we could take it in the next panel if we get somebody from that. But yes, specifically to hiring process and your expectation from the mid to senior level management. We've had discussions earlier, but nevertheless, I would want maybe Sudha to reiterate some of the new skill sets that you would be looking at when you recruit people.
We've been talking about
what change.
Okay, so we've been talking about it.
We've
been telling that your job skills are excellent to have. It's excellent to know what you do the job and you do it really well. But what we're finding now, what we're definitely going to look for future mid-level and especially senior level or any managerial kind of role would be a very high level of EQ. They should be extraordinarily empathetic. They should be much people-oriented. They should have very good active listening skills, not just listening skills and working on your computer and listening to you, but a lot more active listening, which means you're also actually able to give a solution to them which is relevant to what they're asking for. So those kind of IQ combined with a very high level of EQ and listening, those are soft skills which will definitely have a weight if a senior or mid-level person is recruited in a company, definitely in future.
That's well said. Yeah, the EQ and the IQ and the listening, a combination. Plus, as you mentioned, ability to change, nimbleness, communication, cultural aspects, cross-country, change capability, mindset, which even Kashish had mentioned. All these would be very important from a job point of view. I had one question actually for both of you. Does the corporate India see a lot of pay cuts happening or some job cuts, pink slips happening, maybe, at the end of the year? Should we be ready? Because when there's so much of an anxiety and the projects are only business as usual and the news every day is quite depressing actually. Things are not taking off and sectors are nothing much happening, electricity consumption down. So is it something that we need to be mentally prepared? that there could be some salary cuts, pay cuts, job cuts going forward in some sectors? Sudha and then Kashish.
Maybe in some sectors, but for many of the companies for multinational this year, the hikes have already happened. I don't think they're going to retract the hikes which they've already given to people.
Okay.
But it's too soon to call it out for next year review. Maybe the percentage of hikes may be less than what we've given this year. Maybe the expectancy of variable pay would be much more aligned to performance, and that's when it comes in. If you're a high performer, a consistently top performer, you might get a little bit more. So differentiation would happen perhaps. Those are things which would make a lot more. Previously, it was all on paper. Of course, it had to be done. But now the differentiation will be when the pay is being paid out as well, is what I think. This year, I don't see too many job cuts happening. In some industries, definitely. But because it's affected all the countries around the world, I think there are very few countries except Antarctica. I don't think anybody else is left out of this group. I think everybody's just going to be, like we said, a slowdown perhaps, and not maybe a cut, especially unless it's factory or something. And I said, if you're going to change your skills, I think you're going to have to reskill yourself. You will get a job somewhere. You will have jobs. You might have to learn something in your own company, maybe something else, and pick it up. You have to be a lot more proactive in making sure you want the job and what is a skill you're going to go and get to do the job, even in your own companies. And that's what the expectation would be.
Okay. Well said. Kashish, over to you. Do you see pay cuts, job cuts happening?
So, I think there's a Mercer, Mercer has, put up some data points where they've said 59% of the companies, and this is across industries, have had no change in whatever their increments in their pay and their salary and their bonuses.
Okay, that's good to hear.
Yeah, 30% are the ones who have deferred the payment. So you've had very marginal industries doing things very, harsh things of doing salary cuts and things like that. And I think that is prevalent. If you've seen, we've seen a bloodbath recently in the communication industry, in the media piece where this is played out. But I don't think across industry, this is the trend. Most organizations, for them, the employee centricity is very, very high. So I don't think that should be a cause of concern or worry. But going forward, having said that, the recruitment, and like Sudha said, it's very, very important to also, how sellable you make, how marketable you make yourself with your skills. That's going to be very, very, very critical going forward. And skills not only in your area, but your capability to do a cross-functional, and that's more from the mid-management lateral piece. The cross-functional exposure, the domain piece developing, all of these things are going to be very critical going forward.
Got the point, yeah. So that's good to hear in some sense. We don't have to be too paranoid or anxious. Anyway, it's early stages. We need to keep reading. We need to keep having these different panel discussions on various aspects, put the whole 360-degree view together to see how India and the world is changing. We have a question from Manan Sampath. So Manan, over to you.
Hi, good evening, Kashish, Sudha, Anu. How are you guys doing today?
Good evening, Manan.
I have a couple of... sorry, go on, please. Hello?
Yeah, Manan, go on.
Yeah. So I have a couple of questions. The first one is, whenever I open LinkedIn these days, I see a lot of desperation coming out in most of the posts. People are either worried for their jobs or they are scared of unwanted collateral damage that's there. Is this actually something that's as serious as it's made out to be, or is it more of fear feeding on itself? So that's my first question. I have another one which is related to one of the businesses that I am a partner with. We run a small business, a small chain of preschools. while we have been reaching out to our employees and our partners, there is a serious cash flow issue because we are not able to make salaries for the second consecutive month. I'm sure that's the case also with a lot of other small businesses. In this, we are not actually able to pay them. It's not like we don't want to pay them, but there's actual cash flow difficulty. Can you just throw in your views on these two things? Thanks.
I think my view is, Manan, the first question we could take, because both of them are coming from slightly large organization, the panelists. The second question, we would probably need to have a panel, which we were also discussing with Arvind and Imanshi. We need to have a panel with also SMEs, smaller businesses, promoters, and understand how because things would work differently in different organizations and based on the size and the sectors. So we'll try. But probably next week or the week after that, we would have an HR panel with people from different, spectrum. So there, I think the issues could be more relevant than in maybe NEC or MSCI. Having said that, Sudha and Kashish, you could take your, feel free to answer.
So, Manu, I'll take the second one first. I know she said it's not relevant, but it does bring into play that companies, organizations which are large or even small organizations need to think a lot more rather than just their, the balance sheet. Maybe we need to look a little bit more about a lot more social, a lot more empathetic in terms of doing business as well. Not, that kind of a lot. It's good that you're thinking about the bottom line. Maybe companies have to be a lot more understanding, especially in times of crisis. Maybe a CSR activity or putting aside different funds for different things. Those could be thoughts which could happen. And the COVID has not been the most pleasantest thing, obviously. But it has brought about an opportunity for people to think outside the box. And it has brought people to think about nothing is off the books to think about. And I think it's an open book now to think how we can think about it more like a social problem, especially if we're talking about schools which are going to affect the future of the country and what they're going to feed into it. And if your 2-3 schools are having the same problem, other colleges and schools might be having similar problems. Perhaps it would be a social call to make them. And I've completely forgotten your first question.
First question was on the LinkedIn. He saw a lot more desperate CV posting. So he was like, is that the new norm, or is it that people are getting over anxious? LinkedIn postings.
I don't know about your companies. I know that LinkedIn profiles have always been active. As a good barometer for a company, if I need to know, I know that if the HR or the people are happy with the company or they're not happy, I just have to go into LinkedIn and see how many times people have approached it and changed it. And I think it's most common, especially when people are unhappy in their job. I don't think it's to do with the times or maybe it's a little bit more particular now. It's more visible because others are looking at LinkedIn as well. But more in the last 4-5 years, more and more people have gone to LinkedIn and are constantly on the lookout for the next better job. I don't think it's because they're not happy with the job which they have. Either they have undersold themselves, or they feel there's something better, or they do a peer comparison. They think something else is better out there, and that's what they do. So I don't know if there's I've not seen any particular study which says that more people are approaching LinkedIn now than before. But if there is, that one as well.
So if that were the case, we would have, I think we would have very high attrition rates. Yes. I don't think that is the case right now. So I think we have more stickiness with organizations today. So it's more of a social media hype kind of a thing which is playing out. For anybody in HR, retention is a huge thing, and attrition is where you spend, pretty much enough of your mind space to work out the retention part. We are not seeing that kind of attrition. So I think that addresses that. On your second question, just one input, the education space is going to now become very tech intensive. there was anyways a lot of digitalization which was happening around it, but now it's going to become more digitalized and at a higher speed. So that could be one area where you may want to focus on. This is the situation which is there right now for all of us. But we are big. The bigger organizations, the bigger fish are able to digest or right now take in that impact of whatever the situation is, and there are no salary cuts, etc. happening. The smaller businesses are feeling the impact. But that what works, and I won't say it's a very long period. I would still say it's very sector oriented, impact which will come in. But what will work best for any small SME or a small business at this stage will be the kind of culture that you run in the organization, which binds the people. That's going to play a very, very critical role for them to tide over this period. I'm not an expert to work out the financials for you on that, but from a culture perspective, it's how the binding and the glue and the stickiness and the support that is there for your team during this period of time. We all work for salaries, but I know of situations where despite the kind of deferment of bonuses and increments that are happening today in the industry, there are employees who are standing up and saying that, yes, I know we're going through a tough time and this is the time for us to be there with the organization. And this is happening across many organizations. It just goes back to the culture that you can build for your team.
So Manan, I think partly it's been answered because your question is very specific to small businesses, and we do understand there are a lot of challenges. In fact, we are planning to have some best practices and some experiences also being shared by promoters like you and others from the small businesses going forward. It is a difficult time, and we do see that across sectors, the ramifications could be different. Holding power could be better in certain organizations, certain sectors. In others, it could be different. I was also reading about the retail sector. I met somebody where there are a lot of job cuts happening. So this is just the beginning of the online discussions, and we'd like to end today's session here because it was a 1 hour session and it's been fairly good, I would say. We got a lot of good questions, a lot of good support, good learning for myself too. And this is just the beginning, as I said. So I would request all the participants to log into the other series also, because Corporate India is all verticals well understood. And please send us your feedback on, how was the discussions today? Was it useful? And how we can improve it further. If you have any specific recommendation on certain sectors, certain level of, any level of issues or level of management that you would like to be discussed, please drop those messages also. And with the permission of Arvind and Himanshi, I would, can I end today's session? I would like to say a big thanks to everybody. And thanks Sudha, thanks Kashish for coming over. And I enjoyed, and I hope all of you, or both of you also enjoyed having discussions. And we'll be in touch. And if there's something more, I could always email to you. And thank you so much. Thank you everybody for participating and making this session lively and a learning experience. And we're wishing the best wishes to all of us and all people who attended today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. And I think time to stay positive and invest in yourself. So
yes, and stay home. Stay safe.
Yes, stay home, stay safe. Thank you so much, Anu. Thank you, Sudha.
Thank you so much.